to my podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dom.
So good to have you here. Yeah, we've been friends for a while, and I've invited you on, and finally you got some shit to promote.
Well, you know, we've had lots of chats over the years in an unprofessional manner. We met in a professional manner, though. I think we met when we were both asked to host the radio awards together. That's when we met.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking about this the other day because it was like a pre-recorded radio awards, and I was thinking this was way before COVID, though. Oh, this was the global financial crisis.
Yeah, that's right.
So there was 2008, 2009. So we
old school crisis, that one.
we were in a studio, and we did a pre-recorded video, which was then played.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
the radio broadcasters of New Zealand.
And pre-records always take so much longer than anything else because you just keep messing up, and then you get to go again. So I remember that taking a really long time. But the reason why we're friends is because we got given a voucher to spend on booze and food and something. So we had to meet up at another point to spend it.
Yeah.
And then a friendship blossomed from there.
Yeah, that's right. So you were working at Radio Hauraki, which is where you're working now.
Yeah.
I was working at The Edge.
Yeah.
There's two media companies in New Zealand. They're both different media companies. And
So
I think
they
it
pick
was
a wounder from each side to do the radio work.
it was your boss, a lady called Jane Hastings, that thought it would be good, would be a good pairing. And that was the first time we met is when we were in the studio and we were doing this thing, and I was really nervous about meeting you because I just thought you were going to be this angry dude that hates everything.
Wow, that's interesting. I wonder where that impression came from.
No, well, I suppose it came from the little I knew about you, which was like you're this BFM guy.
Yeah.
You were in Deja Voodoo. Back of the Wine, Masterpiece Television.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of angry acting at that point.
But you couldn't be more placid or peaceful or calm.
Yeah.
And a friendship bonded. And it's quite funny because it's we're not close. We maybe see each other like twice a year.
Yeah. And
we're very spontaneous. So I'll message you on a Saturday afternoon saying it's a sunny day.
Yeah.
Let's go drinking, and you'll do the same.
Yeah.
Whenever I have a period where I'm like, I might try sobriety, like you're one of the reasons that I think I shouldn't do it, because we have fabulous catch-ups.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, they're drunken catch-ups, to be honest.
But they're wonderful.
But yeah, they're great. No, they're fantastic. But yeah, it's like we're not going to just meet and and both of us are interested in health and such. But those aren't the days when we're going to lean into health, are we?
Absolutely not. Like the amount of long lunches we've had at my favourite restaurant. It's a place in Ponsonby called Prego.
Yes.
Where and they do amazing food, and we won't even eat. We might get some calamari to share, but it's
it's been a good lunch when it's dark, and there's been so many different layers of people coming through, and you're still there.
Yeah.
But great service there. They look after you. Don't they?
It's wonderful. So you're here today. The primary reason is because you've got this amazing new book out called A Life Less Punishing. 13 Ways to Love the Life You've Got, which is...
Because you've always got to have that thing after the title, don't you? Like A Life Less Punishing, then it says 13 ways to explain what it is. So it's actually a really long name, isn't it?
It is a great book.
Thank you.
It's really, you must be proud of it.
Yeah, like it was when they sort of came up to me and said, "Would you like to write a book?" I was like, "Yeah," and I thought this is going to be really full on. And you've written 3 books. I thought, it's going to be full on, and it's going to be full on. It's like painting my house was a similar thing. I thought this is going to be a lot, but I wasn't quite sure exactly how much it was and how all consuming it was going to be because it's always over your head. And it's really enjoyable, and I wanted to do a lot of research for it, and I want to kind of do it right, and then. It was just so consuming for my life, lunches at Prego were out, like.
By the way, hey, I'm pleased you bring up the house painting thing because I feel like through the duration of our friendship, there's been 3. It's been like a trilogy of excuses to get out of a date with me. First one, early on, it was the kids. Oh, I've got the kids this weekend. Now your kids are like grown. How old are your kids?
One's 17 and one's 14.
Yeah, so that's sort of done.
Yeah, so you'll see them at Prego.
So that was excuse 1. Then the last few years, it's been the book. Now it's been the house painting thing, which is...
And now I'm like such a free man, like, because the house painting, because I wanted to do something, I mean, good to talk about the book, but the house painting has been freaking big, because I wasn't the most practical guy, but I've had to learn how to do everything, and it's been freaking great. But like painting a house, it's like, it took 4 months to paint the house. It was a 4-month epic journey of self-discovery painting the house, because I started off being completely useless. And near the end, I noticed a weatherboard that needed to be replaced around the side of the house. I was cutting it in, fitted it in, you know, and I was like, shit, I'm practical. It's great.
I feel like you've used the excuse on me for more than 4 months. Anyway, this book, it's the latest chapter in what has been to date an incredible media career, really. Like if you think about it, TV series, movie, animated TV series, assigned musician, morning radio, weekly column, commentary, and now this.
Yeah,
it's stellar.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just sort of simmering. It sort of simmers. You know, the pot's never sort of boiled over. It's just sort of just operating in the background, kind of. There was always something, but they're all kind of the same thing, aren't they? Really, you know, TV, radio, books.
I suppose like transferable. It's all media, but it's it's really cool. You must look back and be proud of like your body of work.
Yeah, I am. I'm learning to be that way. But
what do you mean you're learning?
Well, learning to be proud of things, because I'm always feel like they're not perfect and they didn't do exactly what they wanted them to be, and I've, you know, and that's kind of part of what this book is about, is actually appreciating stuff, because you know really lucky to have all these opportunities, but always like I'm not quite fucking ripping the throat out of it, you know, it's not quite the greatest thing ever, and so you live in this state of constant needing to do more to prove it and yourself, and then overshooting the mark, and then you never, and then it goes away, and then you're like recently I did my last column for the Herald, and I wrote it about that. It's like you only appreciate it when it's gone. Like that's the thing. Like all your little projects, when they move on, that's when you go, that was awesome. But at the time you go, God, nothing's working, you know. So
yeah, I feel sort of the same way, and I never allow myself to be sort of proud or happy of what I'm doing. I wonder if part of that comes from being from like regional New Zealand. I'm from, you know, I'm from Palmerston North. You're from Dunedin.
I'm from a farm outside Dunedin,
and no one lets you get, you know, too big for your boots.
Well, when I was growing up, my biggest wish in life was that I could live close enough to a dairy that I could walk to a dairy and buy an ice cream. I thought that people that lived like that were living the absolute dream. And I'd visit cousins and stuff, and I'd go, you guys can just go to a dairy? That was the most amazing thing. And I quickly reached that goal. And then there's just, and I didn't even enjoy that goal. At one point I was living above a dairy, and I was thinking, this is it. You know, I can buy things anytime I want. It was a 24-hour dairy almost. But...
like a night
but now I'm not living near a dairy. Well, I am actually living quite near a dairy, but I didn't even appreciate the moment so close to a dairy when they came true.
So how happy are you right now?
Pretty freaking happy.
Are you?
I reckon probably the happiest I've ever been.
Really?
And most content and mellow I've ever been in my life. And I wasn't when I started writing this book, which is why I wrote the book, because I thought, you know, I had this idea that maybe I could read and research my way out of a bit of a funk that I was in, and I think it turned out to be accurate, because I've come out the other end feeling pretty freaking good, actually. It's kind of making me feel a little bit nervous how good I feel, because I feel like I'm tempting the gods to punish me for being this good.
What was the secret? What has made you happy? What's been helpful?
I think the most helpful thing I think is just I don't know, it's such a cliche, but being a little bit grateful for things. And looking the right way in things, and it's like a Stoic principle that we're always looking, you know, like say you can be in a house, right? And you can look at the mansion and go, why aren't I in their mansion? Or you could look at the person that's living in a dump in Mumbai and go, how lucky I am, you know what I mean? And that's the same thing across everything. You may not be the most successful in what you're doing, but you're not the least successful. And you are managing to feed yourself, and your kids are healthy and all that kind of stuff. It's just kind of learning to look in the right direction on things. I mean, it's like, you know, all of us, like we have a look into our kitchen and we go, oh, this kitchen needs to be, this is very middle class, but this kitchen needs to be renovated. You go and you look at it. It's like, no, it doesn't, because some frickin' people have to carry the water to drink on their heads. You know, like hundreds of millions of people have to carry the water to their bucket. And if you told them that not only were you not really happy and grateful for the kitchen you have, you're thinking about, you know, ripping it out and putting a new one in. You know, even if you can't afford to rip it out and put a new one in, you're still looking at going, geez, wouldn't it be good if that tap was just immediately boiling water with a freezing cold water one there? And how come my fridge isn't plumbed? You know, there's
yeah, the tap water is not as filtered as what it.
There's a terrible way you can look, and the truth is, there's always someone better off than you, and there's always someone living the dream life, but there's always many, many more people worse off than you, and it's an absolute shame if you don't learn to enjoy the good times because, you know, as they say, the bad times are always coming.
Yeah, that's so true. What do you think the lowest was for you? What was your low point?
I don't know. I reckon the lowest point for me, and I start the book at it when I was going through this really freaking bad stage in my life, and the most annoying thing for me was like I had no right to be feeling like that, you know, because I was like, well, what really do I want to do here, and what's the problem here, and I guess like I'd sort of been in the specific position where I'd had like these two really important women in my life, my mother and my partner. And I guess now looking back, those are the people that I talked to about life. And one died and the other one, the relationship ended. And so I think I was just kind of spiritually at sea. And then probably punish you with a bit of this chat here and there, probably 25 bottles of wine deep. But like, but you know, and then, but I didn't realise that at the time. I was just like, why am I fucking? I was in Queenstown actually. It's another terrible way to put it. I was looking out over the lake.
It's a very glamorous life.
I was looking out over the lake and going, oh fuck, my life's freaking terrible. And I was going, is it though? And then I had this idea that maybe what I could do is just go really hard on researching, you know, a way to feel better about things. And then this, I didn't know that I was writing that book at the time, but really that just involved reading a lot of books and listening to a lot of podcasts.
Well, you know, from our conversations, that's one thing that I've always like admired about you. Like I can listen to a 3-hour Andrew Huberman podcast about alcohol, and at the end of it, it's like, I don't recall any specific facts, but I know that alcohol's bad and I'm drinking too much. Whereas you're really good at like listening to these things or reading a book and then like recalling specific quotes or stats.
It's quite punishing to hang out with me though, because I will just, whatever I've consumed comes back out the other end. Like, because
you're a fact dispenser.
Yeah, well, that's what this book is. It's just a spewed. It's what I've done. It's what I do to everyone. It's like I've just ingested it and then spewed it back out. Yeah. So I guess
you know, you're doing that self-deprecating thing, but it's really, really good. Like you're taking some complex and well-researched ideas, but you know, sharing it or regurgitating it in a way that's easy to digest.
Yeah.
I think it's really clever.
Yeah, well, and what I wanted to do was make it slightly entertaining as well. So there's some humiliating stories in there and stuff. But, you know, I'm very interested in history and interested in science and very interested in philosophy. My degree's in philosophy. Well, it's in anthropology and philosophy. So it's kind of, this is right in my wheelhouse, writing this book.
Finally, you get to use that degree.
It's funny. I only bought the degree out. Like I found it when I was moving out of a house. And I found it in like some, you know, the box of special things. And I'd never taken it out of the cardboard that it was sent to me because I didn't turn up to accept it. In fact, my dad was one of the people that was handing out the degrees, and he had to read or stand there with my name in one of, you know, those stupid outfits. And I didn't even turn up to accept my degree that had taken me 5 years to get.
Why?
I think for some reason I'd moved on. I don't know. I just moved on. I got the degree and I was out of there.
So it wasn't an anger thing or anything?
No, I think I was making a TV show at the point,
right.
and that was all consuming. So I didn't do it. I just finished it and then forgot about it kind of. And then I got the invite and I didn't get the cap or the gown or go down there or do anything.
Well, do you feel sad now? Like as a middle-aged man?
I do actually. Like, why didn't I go and enjoy the degree? Because like I could have had to throw the hat in the air and do all that and had that picture.
Well, it's a moment. It represents a lot of hard work.
I know, and I actually had that moment when I put it on the wall in the den in my house. I was like, oh, I'm actually going to put this degree up. It's pretty good. It took me quite a while to get it, and then I actually was talking to a friend, Andrew Schusterman at the time, and I sent him a picture of it, and he goes, rubbish frame, like spend some money on the freaking frame if you're going to hang that up. And I was like, oh yeah, looks terrible, doesn't it? So the moment of enjoyment was very short.
Yeah. So so let's, because you mentioned this in the book. You mentioned your mum and your ex Lani just a second ago. So that was I think this was about the time we met. So when we met, you were still with Lani, who's she might be known to some people as the bass player from the band LMNOP.
Yeah, yes, mother of my children.
Yeah, you got the two kids together. so when we first met, you were still going out. Then you sort of broke up, and then you got back together a bit.
Yeah.
But it seems very amicable. You still.
Yeah.
It's an admirable relationship.
She's a fantastic mum, and she's just done such a good job, and especially in all those times when, you know, I was working a lot, and you know, she travels a lot, and we both do, and she's just amazing. Like, she's just a natural mum, whereas I wasn't necessarily a natural dad. It took me a while, but she was. The baby came out, and she was like, "Oh, this is what you do," and I was like, I was like asking, "Does it just keep breathing?" Like, you know, I didn't know anything about babies. I was like, "What do you do? What do we do with it?" She's like, "It's fine. Put it in a," you know. She just took charge, and that's been great.
What happened there? Because it does seem like you've got a good relationship now.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me a bit of the relationship that I have with my ex JJ. But
yeah, I mean, I was just walking over here. I was texting you, you know, about some funny thing, you know. So we're good, very good mates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, like, how you look back on that now, and do you think you could have tried harder, or you could have done something differently, or did it just run its course?
I just guess it ran its course, and,
yeah.
And she's got a great life now, and I've got a great life now, and she'll always be in my life. So it's like, it's sweet as, you know. It is what it is.
That's cool. And you describe her as the best person you've ever met alongside your mum.
Yeah.
Which I think so. She must have, God, she must have been emotional when she read that.
I don't know if she's read it. She probably hasn't read it yet.
All right.
She may not read this.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty annoying. I don't know. She's heard so much of my crap. Like, I think reading this book would be torture to just hear me going, you know.
Oh, but that's a high praise. That's a really nice thing. And then then there's your mum. Like, I never got to meet your mum, but I know how important she was to you. And she was you're from a smart family. Like, your mum spoke 5 languages.
Yeah.
And your dad's a professor from Oxford.
Yeah, well, he got his one of his PhDs at Oxford.
Yeah. So what were your early aspirations?
See, I just wanted to be a rock star from really early on. Like, I wanted to be 2 things: an anthropologist like Indiana Jones and a rock star. And I remember saying that to a career, a counsellor at high school. They were like, "What do you want to be?" I said, "Well, I want to be a musician or rock star." And they're like, "But that's not a serious thing." I was like, "But it is." And or I want to be like an archaeologist, like, you know, on a site. So then of course my dad said you have to study law because he wanted me to be a doctor, and and so I started studying law at uni, but then quickly transitioned that into an anthropology degree, and whilst playing in bands, which was my main thing. And interestingly enough, our manager at one point was Grant Robertson, who went on to be the finance minister of New Zealand.
Oh wow! And deputy prime minister.
Yeah, he sent me this letter at some point, which was him sending out for us to get gigs, like, you know, high school gigs. Like, we were out playing in high schools, you know, because we were teenagers and playing out, and it was like they can play. So yeah, I really wanted to be. That's what I wanted to do, but I also wanted to be a movie director as well. So they're all pretty lofty goals for someone growing up in the outskirts of Dunedin on a farm.
It seems unobtainable. And what about your parents? Were they like mortified? You know, because it's easy to say as a kid, "Oh, I want to do this," but then to actually follow through and do it.
I was the 3rd kid, and so I think that sort of moved on a little bit. There's not a lot of photos of me and my little sister of 4. And when I was 13, I moved into a renovated barn at one end of the farm. It was miles away from the house, and so when I got my car, I was pretty independent. I was moving friends in and out into the house as well. Like, I had one friend living in this cottage on the farm, and moving people into my room. So it was very independent. So apart from seeing my report cards and going, you know, they're always the same report cards everyone gets, you know.
But do your parents have like an understanding of like the intelligence? We'll get into the work you've done, and it's all had like a bogan sort of lean on it. But like, I've gone on a deep dive in your work in the last couple of weeks, and it's really clever stuff. Like, underlying, there's some real clever stuff. Did they understand the brilliance of it, or were they sort of like curling their toes up at what you were doing?
It was interesting because my sisters have said to me that my mum would accept anything from me. So, you know, we'd be on TV doing something absolutely shocking. Like, I remember we did the skit called, it was Pooh Man and Wheeze, and they ran into this woman called Scatwoman, and Scatwoman was just fighting Pooh Man and Wheeze with, you can imagine what it was. It was just so outrageous, and then my mum's laughing at it, and my mum was pretty straight, like unbelievably straight, but because it was me, then it was fine. You know, if she'd seen anyone else doing it, it would be the crime. But she was always very, very, very supportive.
Oh, you could just do no wrong.
No wrong. Yeah, I think looking back now, I was lucky in that regard that she would let me away with anything pretty much.
What did she pass away from?
She just did. It was just a genetic heart disorder.
Right.
So she was basically destined to die the day she died from birth, pretty much.
Right.
It was and you know, my father, being a medical guy, had a pretty intensive autopsy done on her when she passed, because it was pretty hardcore for him. You know, he was in the farmhouse with her when she went down, and you know, he tried to save her, but there's no chance, whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's funny, because like she was a teetotaler. You know, ate so well, and then just she was gone. And
how old was she?
She was just 70.
Fuck.
So so that was destined to happen. Like you know, one of those things that there was nothing that she could do. But you know, I wonder if like if you're not trying to. I think about it like if you're not trying to live to 95, and you knew you were out at 70. Then I mean, there's a lot more things you could have done, but she was never going to be the person that was going to really rip it up like I have. This wasn't really. But who knows? I've got a freaking heart, so
yeah.
So
well, and you know, it's well known that you can build resilience by doing tough things and forcing yourself into difficult situations. It's probably the same. Maybe it's the same with your organs. Like punish them a little bit just slowly over the years.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, well, hopefully, because I've really had to go at my organs over the years.
So what? What due to the sporadic sort of nature of our relationship and seeing each other twice a year, like I feel shit about this because I wasn't really there for you at the time.
Yeah.
I suppose I didn't even know your mum, like I've never met her, but that must have been a bloody difficult time. Like
it was. It was full on, and especially like if you're to be honest, bit of a mummy's boy. So you know, I was like, there wasn't long times. You know, and the last thing I write about in the book actually, because you know I want to talk about, there's chapters, you know, there's 13 chapters, they're all about different emotions, but one of them is grieving, and you know, like, you know, just before she died, the last thing I said to her on the phone after a really long chat was, you know, I love you, Mum, and it was one of our classic 2-hour chats on the phone, you know, like
2-hour chat.
Yeah, we chat all the time.
Okay, I think that says a lot about your relationship.
Yeah, because she was a philosopher, you know, and it's funny because when I finished the book, I was just thinking about what I'd written about, and there's a lot of a parallel between Greek and Indian thought, like, you know, between Stoicism and Buddhism and you know, a lot of other shit in there, neuroscience, all that kind of stuff. But then I was thinking about it, that's what my mum wrote her thesis on, the parallels between Greek and Indian thought. Oh. So so you don't know what you're repeating, from your parents, do you? Like, you don't even know what you're doing. To me,
it's amazing what what you pick up that sinks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck, should be so proud of this book, right?
Well, she was proud of Scatwoman, so you know.
So this book would be like a relief.
Yeah.
Finally, he's reached his potential.
Yeah, it would be funny. She'd be like, "Shit, it's a bit light, man."
So the 2-hour conversation, the last chat you had, what were the contents of that? Just general yarning.
Yeah, we always talk about philosophy and politics and that kind of thing, and you know, and she was quite cheeky and smart, and she was like, and in fact, I've had lots of relationships where they're like, "Oh, why are you always trying to win points over me?" But that was the conversations with my mum were always like, who was smarter, which was always her by miles, but you were always trying to see if you could prove a logical point against each other. And so we're always spinning around. At the end of the argument, it was an argument, but it was pleasant. And so I grew up with that, these kind of pleasant
intellectual debates
that were quite heated in a way, but you were trying to win, but there's also a lot of love in it. So, you know, blah, 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 I hated you, be getting sweaty, or your mum was beating you in the argument. You know, on the phone, you can't let it down. And then you'd be like, anyway, love you, Mum. And, you know, so it was quite freaking intense. And so I think maybe that's why, you know, I say in the book, when I was sort of all at sea in life and couldn't really understand what was going on, it was like, probably because I wasn't having these bloody huge conversations with my ex and my mum, although I feel like my ex would have probably preferred if I didn't bring so much of that kind of logical, intense debate structure to our relationship.
Oh, so you're trying to debate with her. She's like, mate, I'm a bass player in a band. I don't want this shit.
Like, what are we having for dinner?
So did you always sign off your conversations with your mum that way? Love you, Mum?
We finished them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Right.
Always like, anyway, love you, Mum.
Fuck, and then when did you get the news about her passing? Who did that? Was that your dad?
Yeah. My dad rang.
Did you want to talk about that?
Or? When he died, did I want to talk about it? Oh, yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah. He just rang in the middle of the night and said, she's gone. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, she's dead. She dropped dead in her study. And I was like, shit, that's pretty intense. Because, you sort of worry about that when you're younger, don't you? You're like, oh, my parents. And then when it happens, it's quite intense. But I behaved in a very cliched fashion. I just drank an entire bottle of Jack Daniels and tipped over a bunch of chairs and acted like a real dick about it. It was like,
when were you at home?
Yeah, I was just having to be at home by myself. So I was like, and I had a breakfast show to do the next day, and I talked to my dad and I said, I'll fly down. He goes, well, you have to do your breakfast show. He's very intense about work. So I was like, you got to get your job done, flying down after your job. So I went and did my radio show and then flew down, and it was pretty intense actually. But it happens to everyone, isn't it? It's not a unique experience. Everyone grieves. Everyone loses people.
Yeah, but it's just the sudden nature of it. It's quite. But I suppose the opposite of that is
the slow burn,
a slow death where you get to leave no stone unturned and things don't get left unsaid. But it's a trade off, isn't it?
Yeah, but when I think about it in a way, even though I prefer she was around, obviously, there were some parts of it that are really good, and that and that the last thing I said to her was that, and that we were in a really good space, and not that we ever really had any problems. I mean, one time I turned up for Christmas dinner so hungover, and I hadn't bought anyone presents when I was about 23, and I fell asleep on the Christmas table with my head down, and I remember just being woken up to be told I ruined Christmas. But apart from that, our relationship was pretty good.
So how old were you? When she passed?
That's a very good question. I can't even work it out.
What was it? Like
I was in 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So So you got to make her proud. She was proud of your work. She was proud of you. How you were doing as a dad.
Yeah. She met, obviously she'd met both my kids and spent a lot of time with them, and so that's pretty good because I think that would be hard if she hadn't met the kids. But
So and what about your dad? He's fine.
Yeah. I mean, freaking pretty rough on him, tell you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was, because, he was stuck in that house, and then the huge snowfall came in and he was locked in there. So he got online and he bought a new house while he was in the old house. He bought a new house. I'm like, I can't stay in here as soon as I get out of here. And then he moved out. And I tell you what, if you live in a big place, people will know this. If you live in an apartment, you can't store a lot of stuff. But if you live in a farm with multiple buildings, you can store everything that you've ever bought or been past, and you never have to throw anything out for years and years and years.
You grow to the space you've got.
Yeah, that's right. And so the cleanup, me and my 3 sisters and my dad cleaning up that house and all those memories. Because when I moved out, I just left my room because no one was even going to go into the top of that barn again. So that was just exactly as I'd left it. That had to be freaking cleared out. There was condoms everywhere, you know what I'm saying?
So many posh wanks.
There was so many things that needed to be moved out.
Do you think he wanted to move because it was just too painful staying there?
Yeah. I know for a fact he had to get the hell out, because he was very. They were a very devoted couple, as it were. I don't know. That's not the right saying. They were a very devoted couple. They were the kind of people that would embarrass the kids by telling each other how much they love each other over the breakfast table, dinner table, and you're like, but now I think it's quite cool.
It is. It's wonderful, right? It's wonderful. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some of the career stuff. So the book starts with you retelling a story of a fist fight you had in front of Tim Finn in 2003, so 21 years. So how old were you? Like early 20s?
Yeah.
This is probably about the same year as when you fell asleep at the dinner table. So this is with your friend, comedy partner and bandmate, Chris Stapp.
Yeah.
So what's the story there?
Well, yeah. Like with the book, I wanted to write about all these emotions and anger. So I had to have these examples of when, because I used to be an angry young man. Oh yeah, you were saying before you thought I'd be angry. I used to be quite an angry person.
I find it hard to reconcile. I know everyone simmers down with age, but I can't imagine you being angry. You're the least angry person
I mean that story was frickin' bad. So we're on soundcheck. We're touring with Tim Finn, and it's such a stupid story because we're just one of the songs we hadn't been playing that well, and I was like, I want to practice it twice, and he said, nah. But there was another part of the show where I'd light guitars on fire and hit him around the head with them, while Tim Finn sang the song, Inkelbert Humperdinck song, 10 Guitars, And I'd broken a couple of Chris's ribs the day before, but I didn't know because I'd swung wrong. There was 10 guitars, acoustic guitars. I was supposed to smash them over his head, but I, just to mix it up, on day 3 of the tour, I'd swung low and hit him in the ribs. So I didn't know that he was going through that pain. Later on, I found out that he'd spent the night before in his hotel room in a bath drinking vodka to try and deal with the pain with bath salts and stuff. I didn't know that. But anyway, so I'm saying we need to practice the song 3 times because we were terrible last night. And he goes, no. And then we just got into an argument. And then next thing you know, he's holding the bird in front of my face. And then we're fucking beating the crap out of each other on stage. I throw him down some stairs. And then we end up in Tim Finn's dressing room. He's about to do his sound check. And there's like the table set up for later on with like drinks and stuff on it. And I throw Chris through the table, and then Chris is Tim Finn's up against the wall going, is this a bit? Are we? He couldn't understand it. And then I managed to get Chris's shoe off, and I was just beating him on the head with the shoe in the middle of the room, and then just had this moment. I looked around, you know, those moments of clarity, and there was people just standing, things was wrecked, and I was like, this is humiliating. Like, what has happened here?
You're wildly inappropriate. Just so bad.
Just so bad. Yeah. And so that was and I can't imagine myself getting that angry again, but we all get angry. And just the argument in this book is that anger is, one of the things that makes your life unnecessary bad. Like, not a lot of good comes from being angry. You don't make good decisions when you're angry. You can ruin your life. I mean, prisons are full of people that got angry. And you don't
saw
really
the red mist, yeah,
and you don't really need to get angry.
No, and then you're just embarrassed when you regulate and get back to normal. You're just embarrassed about how you acted,
even if as an angry text, or you never feel good. Like say, like if you storm out of a room and you've got angry and you've lost control, you've never made the situation better, and you've definitely not held your dignity, and you probably haven't furthered your cause, and so it's. So that's something I would not do. Yeah. And
how did you and Chris meet? Because it was a very, very successful partnership.
Yeah, well, we met because I wanted to join a band and he had a band, and so I tried out to be in the band it was called Kid Eternity, and I tried out to be in the band.
Was it a serious band or
serious band, and they were looking for a girl because they wanted a girl bass player, and at the time I had really long hair, and he goes, well, you basically fucking look like a girl, so you might as well be in the band. You can play bass. I was like, okay. So that was about the level of our communication for the next time.
But it was it was very successful. So you did Back of the Y together, the full length motion picture movie, The Devil Dared Me To, the band Deja Voodoo.
Yeah. We morphed into kind of a silly band at one point.
Yeah, I think researching for this podcast, like I think. Deja Voodoo sort of slipped me past at the time. Like I just thought you were this.
But remember we got into that big scrap at an Edge Fest, like with the band Alien Ant Farm.
Oh no! Remind me. I don't know this. I don't know. I forgot you played at an Edge Fest.
Hey?
Did you play at an Edge Fest?
Oh no! I think like what happened was Lani was playing. Element P was playing at Edge Fest. Right. I was down there and we were drinking in her dressing room, and then there was an altercation about her mirror, and someone thought we were stealing the mirror, and then ended up just being in this full-on fight. Between us and Alien Ant Farm, and then the Edge organisers, I think Leon said to our management, they weren't even freaking paying. What have we got this band down here fighting our headline act when they're not even
they're not even on the bill.
They're not even on the bill. What are they even doing there? They're just outside Hamilton having a fight.
But it's sort of reinforced. And the music of Deja Voodoo, like it's kind of like heavy sort of rock. But I listened to it yesterday at the gym, and it's like musically, it's very clever. Like it's brilliant. It's like Spinal Tap.
Yeah,
it's like comedy songs, like what Flight of the Conchords was doing.
Yeah, I always sort of struggled with that a little bit because I wanted to, like everything. I was like, we're in this band and we're playing these big shows and we're having success. Like, I mean, not huge success, but like you're having success if you're selling out venues and you can dive into the audience and get carried around when you're playing guitar. So that's success to a certain extent, and stuff. But I was like, why are we a joke band? Like, I was like, why can't we be a real band? I'd like to be in a real band. So once again, I didn't even enjoy that situation because I was like going, instead of standing on stage going, all these people are singing the songs, this is freaking great. I'm like, why aren't we a real band? Why are we singing these stupid songs that I've written for a start? So it's all my own fault,
They're bloody great songs, eh? Like,
thank you.
Very clever. Like Today, Tomorrow, Timaroo. It's a great song. Yeah. It sounds like it could be an Exponents song.
Yeah, well, that was a tribute to the Exponents. So me and Chris wrote that song when we were hitchhiking from Dunedin to Christchurch, and we stopped off in Timaroo, and we're like, oh, this is where bloody Jordan Luck's from. So we wrote a tribute to the Exponents called Today, Tomorrow, Timaroo. But that bugs me because I wish we'd changed key. Like in the last chorus, should have changed key, and it freaking annoys me. I don't know what we were thinking, and also, would it kill us to get some freaking harmonies going in the chorus?
Do you struggle to look back at any of your work and see anything but the flaws?
Yeah, well, I mean, back of the way, like our first television show was kind of meant to be really ropey, and I think that was actually pretty good. Like I watched that again, and for what it was, which was kind of pure anarchy, I think that first season was really quite cool. So I'm quite proud of that. But proud of it, but I don't like my kid. I haven't shown it to my kids, but I'm pretty proud of it. Yeah.
Have they not seen it?
No, it kind of hasn't, because the idea was to shoot a TV show on TVNZ that was shot on handycams, but was also on a big set, and so it's kind of a weird idea that you have a kind of a shit version of a really mainstream show that then has, like the stage was was weighted like a wrestling ring, so we could slam each other on the stage when we were fighting. Because back at the way I started with me and Chris just sitting in a room with a camera on a tripod, Wayne's World style, for Triangle Television in Auckland. So we'd just interview each other dressed up as stuntmen, and we'd go and do stunts, and then we'd release it, and so we wanted to keep that ethic when we went to, or that aesthetic when we finally got onto TVNZ with our show, and so I think that's pretty cool because it's such an odd thing. Like I imagine if I came across that, I'm like, what's this? I heard once that Paul Holmes did a show called, I think it might have been called Grinder. But anyway, it was a show that he did years ago that there's not many copies of, before he was a big star, that was really sort of rough and a bunch of friends. So I imagine if I found Back of the Wine now, I'd go, wow, this existed. This is odd. But if we were coming up now, it would just be clips on YouTube, wouldn't we? We wouldn't be on.
Yeah, or TikTok. Yeah, I watched season 1, episode 1 yesterday. It's still on YouTube or NZ on Screen, one of those sites, and it's really, really good. Like you can see the merit in it, but it's full noise.
Yeah,
it's great. So
I remember once we went out because the show was immediately quite popular, and back then when you had a show on TV, people would immediately recognise you. I went from no one really knowing who I was to. And in the first episode, there's this joke where I go up to people on the street and dare them. It was a parody of this show called Who Dares Wins.
Oh, Mike Whitney,
Mike Whitney,
ex-Australian AFL player.
Yeah, and it was like he'd go, he'd dare you, and so I'd go up to people with a Mike Whitney head on and go, I dare you to eat my piss and drink my shit, and if you do, I'll give you $5. And I go up to people like in malls and stuff and say that. Yeah. So the next day, like, because at that point I was working in a record store, Real Groovy Records, and literally the next day after the show went to air, people would just start saying, eat my shit and drink my piss everywhere I went. I was like, oh, this isn't how I was going to imagine it playing out. I thought maybe I thought I might get some attention from women, not absolute fucking bogans telling me to eat their shit.
No, it was really good though. At the end, there's like the New Zealand On Air logo, and you're like, this is absolutely not funded by New Zealand On Air. And there's V. It looks like V.
Yeah, V sponsored it heavily.
Yeah,
so we were like, government funding's for losers. We didn't take any of your taxpayer money. Shove it up your ass. This is paid for by V. That was our thing, which was good. I mean, because that's the first thing that happens, isn't it? People go, this is shit, I paid for it.
The taxpayer thing is, couldn't we build another prison?
Yeah.
Oh, Bill Ralston, he was a TV reviewer at the time. Didn't he? Didn't he try and get it boycotted before it even went to air?
It got sent out, and he ran a campaign against it every week. He was writing something in his column, which was in a paper. I don't think it was the Herald, but and just saying the Back of the Way's got to die, and I killed Back of the Way because he got it pulled. Like, he didn't get it pulled, but there was so much media about it being the most filthy and disgusting show that had ever been made, and it shouldn't be on New Zealand television. And it got pulled. And TVNZ just rang us up and said it's not going to air. It's being shelved because... But there was a guy called Jeff Stephen who's the commissioner at the time at TVNZ. He was a wonderful guy, loved the show. And so he was quite gutted about it. And, you know, my sign-off was, see you cunts next week. And he was like, at the end of the show, it says, see you cunts next week. He was like, that's got to stay. That's got to stay, you know. And this is 2001, so that's got to stay. So he was really supportive, but then it got pulled. But just so happened that one of the guys that worked on our show, his auntie was the Minister of Broadcasting at the time. And so she just rang up TVNZ at one point and said, where the hell's my nephew's freaking TV show? Why isn't that on? And then it was suddenly back on. And then it was announced that it was going to air a couple of months later.
Why was there so much why was there so much blowback from one person's opinion?
I just think it really blew up, and then there were questions asked in Parliament about it. So before she did it, there were people saying, why is TVNZ... Because, you know, TVNZ is always under pressure because it's owned by the government. So why is TVNZ... And it was just listing some of the jokes in it. And like on paper, it didn't look good. You know?
Well, there's one... Yeah, so for anyone... A lot of people wouldn't have seen it. They're probably searching it up as they listen or watch this. But it's kind of like... Jackass-ish, would that be the thing to compare it to? But really full noise. Like in season 1, episode 1, there's what's the cop sketch called?
Oh, Constables.
Constables, yeah. So there's a cop that like tries to stop drunk drivers, but he's pissed himself and he just wants to confiscate their alcohol.
Yeah.
It's outlandish stuff.
Yeah.
So what was your thought at the time? Like when you and Chris were writing it, you just want to shock people? Did you just find it funny? Or?
Yeah, well, we grew up in quite a bogan area. And so we found bogans quite funny, but we weren't really bogans ourselves. And, you know, it reminds me of, Friedrich Nietzsche said, battle ye not with monsters lest ye become a monster. And that was kind of what happened. We started making stuff about bogans, and then we actually became bogans because we were so concentrated on it, so we weren't. So we found all that kind of stuff really interesting, because Dunedin is a really weird cross between university students that are quite this way and locals, which are quite Southland bogans. You know, that's kind of the way it works out. And so we were locals. So we were the pieces of shit in town, really. You know what I mean? so you got all these rich Aucklanders coming in, and you were the local piece of shit. So that's kind of what we were leaning into. You know, like there's all these students walking around, they live in their flats, and then they'll have a party, and 5 cars of bogans will turn up and ruin it. And those are the locals, you know. And all the trouble in Dunedin, this is the thing people don't know about Dunedin, all the trouble is caused by locals, and it's all blamed on the students, you know. And so we were the locals causing trouble. So that was where it all came out of, like our sort of celebrating that bogan part of New Zealand. So, yeah. And also we freaking loved TV. So we just loved it, and we loved New Zealand TV. So it was all a tribute, you know, like my character was Danny Parker, that was named after, you know, Steve Parker and Danny Morrison, you know, so not Danny Morrison, Danny Watson. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. Yeah, so you're like a presenter of this TV show, Back of the Wine, Masterpiece Television, but it's Matt with a fake moustache, and you're calling yourself Danny Parker. And then you're this rock star with Deja Voodoo, and you're kind of like doing almost like a parody of what a rock star should be. Was that an imposter syndrome thing, like almost hiding behind these personas?
I was listening to someone, they were saying the other day, can you sing completely without irony? You know, and if you can, then that's awesome. Because for the longest time I thought, you know, being genuine and sincere, there was something wrong with it. But actually sincerity is the hardest thing to find. And, you know,
because of the vulnerability. Or...
Yeah, and it's like writing this book, I'm very sincere in it, and I just would not have been able to do that. And so I think you're 100% right. I think it was all hiding from who I was and entirely trying to recreating myself as a totally different person, like moved to Auckland and was just a totally freaking different person, and lying, basically, like lying about who I was and what my history was and everything. So I must have been ashamed of it for some reason. And
maybe it's a comfort thing. It just takes a certain while to grow into yourself and to grow into your own skin. I feel like you're very comfortable with who you are now.
Yeah, I am, but I think so. You know, we all have our moments, but like I think also like comedy music is a real cop-out, and because you can easily say, it's like the kid that doesn't try it and goes, oh, I didn't try anyway, and, you know, loses, but they didn't try anyway. It's kind of that kind of thing. It's like, oh, we're just a silly band. We're not a real band. But if you actually write a real song with real emotions where you actually touch people emotionally, that's freaking something. You know, singing, I will give you one of my beers, but I've only got 6.
It's a great line, though. It's so good. And then,
it's not much.
There's the song Feelings. Let's talk about feelings. Feeling your tits, feeling your ass, feeling your tongue on my dick, feeling your lips all covered in jizz.
Yeah, it's not a 2024 song, that one.
It's brilliant though. Like it's outrageous.
But that was almost like, because that song starts with me with this chord progression I'd come up with. That was just, I really liked it. And I was going, feelings, feelings, feelings. We had like a Beach Boys harmony and all this kind of stuff. And it was good. And then Jeremy's who I work with now, Chris, he was like, you know the Muppets when it goes, you know, mana, do, and that guy comes in and goes, mana. It's like, what if you're singing a song that's really lovely, and then I just come in and frickin' destroy it. Like, so you're singing about feelings, and then the other member of the band is just a piece of shit.
He's
like,
got the feeling your tits, feeling your ass,
so
feeling
like,
your tail.
feelings. Let's talk about feelings. And he goes, feeling your ass. And like, so that the nice guy walks back in the video and looks around and goes, what the frick happened to my song? That was the gag.
It's bloody great. And what about the pee song? I smoked pee and I'm okay.
Yeah,
what's the backstory with?
Because we've been shooting a show in the UK, and
was that Balls of Steel?
That was before Balls of Steel. That was stuff we were doing some stuff for MTV over there, and we were flying back to New Zealand. And I hadn't heard of pee. I'd been in the UK for a while, and I got a Herald, and I was talking about pee and dog attacks. And I didn't know what pee was. I was quite confused, and so I was reading about it, and then I read that you smoke it, and I was just thinking, it's probably not that bad. So I just sort of wrote the song on the plane. I smoke pee and I'm all right. Got on the pee, stayed up all night. And I didn't really realize. And then we came back and we recorded that album. And then Eating Media Lunch jumped on it because I was friends with Jeremy at the time. And he was like, hey, we'll pay for a video for it and we'll get on there. And then at that time, I was talking to my auntie, who's a psychiatrist, and she was working with people that are addicted to meth at Mount Eden Prison. I was like, that's a bit more serious. There's a little joke of mine. And then over the years, I've seen what it's done to our country, and I'm like, oh, my little joke on the plane back from England was, but the point of it, the song's actually a little bit. Sounds like a lame justification, but the song's a bit more meaningful than that. It's like talking about, we're all going to die, and kind of me and Chris were talking about how media promotes something. So the biggest promoter of pee was the media, because it was the outrage and the terror of it, and it was happening, and they gave it a name that no one had ever called it anywhere in the world before. It was called pee now, and so that's got all these kind of slightly political lines in it that go, the papers wouldn't lie, we're all going to die, But I was really happy with the video to that, because it starts off with Graham Hill smoking a pea pipe in front of a fire in a dressing gown, like an old man.
Like an old school pipe.
Yeah, like an old school pipe, but it's a pea pipe. And he's just like, it was the idea of this kind of, like gentleman, like smoking this pea pipe. But yeah.
So were you guys like trying to shock people? Was it a shock thing?
That one, because I ended up on Sunday being interviewed for it, and they said, you're the face of pee in New Zealand, aren't you? And I was like,
what about Anthony Dixon?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, well.
He gets a reference in the song. There's the line in there about I didn't chop anyone's hands off.
I didn't cut anyone's hands off.
So I think that was the tipping point for P. Yeah, this guy Anthony Dixon.
Yeah,
had a psychotic episode after 3 days on P.
Yeah,
I think did he kill one of his ex-girlfriends?
He cut some hands off. Yeah, it was pretty freaking grim.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, no, I think actually because when we actually recorded that song, it was a few years after we wrote it, or a year or so, 18 months. So things had really changed. So we added that line and then a few things to it. But I wasn't the face of it. Was quite full on being on TV1, big primetime television. Then when it went out, phones ringing, everyone's going, family members, Lani's family members are ringing up going, what the,
Yeah, how was that at the time? Did you sort of enjoy the notoriety at the time, or were you like, fuck?
I was anything for a gag, so anything for a gag, even though I said we tried to put a bit of message in it. It did come from the point of view of they're promoting this, but they're judging it, they're judging it, but at the same time they're elevating it, which it's always the way media has to go, doesn't it? It always treads that line. So I wasn't really, by the time it was really blowing up, and we would be on tour, and then people were just trying to give me, grab me for a freaking, grab me with a light bulb and go around the corner.
Okay.
And because we had
you smoke pee, right?
Yeah. Right. So people were bringing pee to our gigs because to share it with me, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is a freaking joke. And those people are freaking, there were some freaking terrifying people. I mean, I remember there's one in Invercargill where we were playing a show in Invercargill, and it's crazy, and like the lights just got pulled down on someone's head, and their head was open. I was going, and you could just, it was like meth zombies in the front row, and I was like, fellas, it was a joke. It's just sort of like a wry aside on on New Zealand society.
What have I done?
Yeah.
Did you ever, or would you ever consider doing like some proper music?
Yeah. I mean,
Or do you write and perform at home for fun, just for yourself?
I'm always writing songs and playing my guitar, and God, I'm such a much better guitarist than I ever was when I was playing. It's kind of guts me.
But musically, the Deja Voodoo stuff, it's real good, right?
Yeah, it has its moments. You know, we had better musicians in the band than me later on, like this guy called The General that joined Gerald Stewart, who was a really, really good guitarist. And that really helped. So the ideas we had could come into fruition and stuff. But, you know, I listen to it now, and huge fan of Rick Beato. You follow Rick Beato?
No, who's that?
He's a YouTuber, music analyst. And you know, I know so much more about music theory now. And, you know, the algorithm on YouTube is complete, you know, how it finds you. Mm-hmm. Mine is just music theory. I just get punished constantly with music analysis. And so now I'm going, listen to those songs, go, why don't we, like as I was saying before, why don't we change the key at the end? Like, it would be such an easy win on the chorus if we change key. And, you know, why don't we do like at least a 3-part harmony in one of the choruses? All of the choruses. It's ridiculous.
And was it about this time that you did The Devil Dares Me Too?
Yeah, so The Devil Dares Me Too was 2007 that came out. But
So
that was about the time, because we came back from England to do that after Balls of Steel. We did Balls of Steel for Channel 4 in the UK.
So Balls of Steel. So back at the Y, Masterpiece Television, Balls of Steel was basically just like a condensed version of that. So there's a bunch of like various sort of sketches on the show, and you're one of the sketches. Yeah, it was a big show though, right?
It was a big show, but like it totally didn't make any sense, right? So our show was stunts shot with handy cams on BMXs, right? And then they looked pretty violent. People were getting pretty hurt. I mean, we did some pretty freaking crazy stuff. I mean, I've got massive scars where my bones came out, lost my teeth and all that kind of stuff doing the show. So they're quite full on, right? When they're shot on a handy cam and it's small and it's being silly. So then we get this show in the UK, and they fly us over there, and we're shooting in Bromley by Bow Studios, this huge studio. It's the same studio they shoot, like at lunchtimes we were going out, and the Mighty Boosh was shooting there. So I actually thought the Mighty Boosh was a kids show because of all the props. And it was the same thing they shot that movie Sunshine. So it was a huge film studio. They had like huge towers, like 10 camera people, anything we wanted. And then it's us in our stupid costumes with our little moustaches doing our little BMX bike jumps. It just didn't make any sense, because you watch that and you go, there's so much money being spent on this. Why don't you frickin' jump the Grand Canyon, you Muppets? Why don't you know what I mean? It didn't really work. It didn't really upscale like that. It had to be silly. You know what I mean?
But that was part of the appeal of it though, wasn't it?
Well, I think the appeal of it needed to be shot terribly and needed to be small, so it was more impactful and more silly. You know, it was more amateur. It worked better amateur. When it's professional, I think this happens to a lot of people. If your stick is amateur and then you go professional, you're really showing up. And I reckon what we did, and we were really showing up in the UK, because all our shtick was being small and silly. And you know, when you've got, you know, stunt. I mean, and I wrote about in that book when I was on fire as an ape. In one of the chapters, I was dressed as an ape, and the bike landed on me, and I was on fire, and everything went wrong. But there was stunt coordinators, there was proper stunt coordinators and stuff, and I was pretending to be a stunt coordinator, but they were offering 15. They were going to pay. This is what happened. They were going to pay a stuntman £2,000 to be the monkey, and I was like, fuck that, I'll be the monkey. I'll play 2 roles. So I played the stunt coordinator, and the joke is that the monkey's not angry enough, so he gets set on fire to make him angry in the cage, and I get stuck in the cage and I can't get out, and I'm running around, and then I'm running towards the studio audience on fire. And there's this big studio audience, and then but our dumb jokes are still going on, like the other actors are kicking me and stuff, but my mask's gone around that way. I can't see where I'm going, and I'm really on fire. But I'm mainly thinking about missing my girlfriend, because I was there was something happening in my life, and it's like, so it was very full on for me. And then you watch it when it was played out on Channel 4. It's like, that looks freaking stupid. This is a guy going. It was a major moment for me. and all it was a guy in a monkey suit that's massively on fire. But if you'd had like a handy cam and it's dangerous and we're doing it illegally, it's just on the street and not in a studio, you know what I mean? It's sort of a lot of the danger lost because you can see anyone on fire in a movie.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. So it was too elevated to make the gags work, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so that could be once again me doing that thing I said before where I always think everything we do is shit.
Yeah. I wonder if you're overthinking it because, it was really good and really successful.
Yeah.
And you look at it now, and it's 'cause most people probably won't even remember it.
No.
That people that do remember, like Back of the Y or The Devil Did Me Too, may remember how it made them feel at the time, but they won't necessarily remember it. I watched the movie The Devil Did Me Too just the other day. It's on Amazon Prime.
Right.
It's really good.
Is it?
It's really good. Yeah. Heavy signage with V, The Rock, and C4.
Yeah. That was my whole thing back in the day, was selling, like getting everything paid for to try and The Devil Dare Me Too. We got money from from the Film Commission as well, but we frickin' sold it up the wazoo to get the budget up, and as a result, we paid out profit points and it made money.
How much funding did you get? Like, how much does it cost to make a movie?
Well, back then, because this was right on the cusp of digital, and so it was shot on digital. Was part of the funding. That Ant Timpson worked out, who's a great man, and along with some other people, was that it had to be an example of a digital film shot in New Zealand, like the first time they'd shot a feature film, but not on film, and so we shot it like that, and so the budget at that point was, I think we got 400,000 to shoot that part, but then we, sold it up the wazoo and got up to a more budget, but then it cost another 500,000 to turn it from digital to film, because it still had to be in film to go into the theatres in 2007. So more of the budget was spent on transferring it from digital to film than it was on actually shooting the movie, which was, when we were doing that at the time, I was like, we could have really done with this money, and that was right on the cusp, so it would seem ridiculous now.
When did you last see it?
I tried to watch a little bit recently because in the book on the chapter on dissatisfaction, I'm talking about how we were at screening in Germany, Germany in Cologne, and we're like and because we travelled the world with it, and we do a Q&A before it, and we'd introduce it before and do a Q&A afterwards, and so we're in a packed theatre in Cologne, and I start booing the film. I was just so sick of seeing it. We've been travelling around the world watching it, and I was like, it wasn't what I wanted it to be. So I started going, this is shit. And we got asked to leave, and then but the security was dragging us out, and then the organizer of the festival, these German people that are driving us around, because we were all over Germany. Well, it did quite well in Germany, and they were like, "Hey, you can't throw these guys out. These are the stars of the film, the director and the producer. Like, they have to stay in here." And they're like, "Well, can you stop abusing the film?" Like, no, because we will not.
Because I read that part in the book, and I thought, knowing you reasonably well, I thought, you were just being funny. You were just trying to get a laugh. Or were you over it by then? It sounds like you were trying to get a laugh.
It would probably be 50-50. Me and Chris were probably trying to get a laugh from each other. But to be fair, we were disappointed in it. So there was truth in it and not truth in it. You know what I mean? And plus, there was some confusion with the alcohol percentage of the beer we were drinking.
Those German beers are very strong.
I think we thought we were drinking, like
4%
DB exported, and we were like, so there was a number of factors playing into that.
What were you disappointed about with the movie?
I just don't think it was funny enough. I didn't think the acting was very good. I didn't really like my performance in it. I felt it was too grim when it could have been. It should have been. Yeah, it just it had an empty vibe to me. It just wasn't everything it could have been. And it was a very different story than what we originally wrote, and it kind of got changed by the Film Commission. And they made me... It didn't make any sense. This is what annoyed me, because they made it that one of us was older and one of us was younger, and Chris is older than me. And so I was the older person in the film. I was playing Dick Johannesson, who was this sort of evil guy, and Chris was playing Randy Campbell. Like
an upcoming stuntman.
Yeah.
Okay, basically you were sort of
but no one aged me up, so it was like, it didn't make any sense. I'm like, watch this film, this guy's clearly younger than that guy, and he's supposed to be the older guy. And it's like, I know we were directing it at the time, but that was because it was a last minute script change. It was supposed to be two buddies that fell out, and because one was interested in making money, and the other one was a stuntman, and one of them discovered that the other guy can't die in stunts, so he's going to utilize him as much. But as soon as they made that difference, so I just watched that movie and I'm like going, well, that's a huge flaw. That is a massive flaw. But there's some good lines in it.
I thought it was, yes, it's a great movie, and some recognisable, because I saw it at the time, but I haven't seen it since, but Dominic Bowden's in there, Josh Thompson, who's done very well, Tyson Kennedy from the band Stereogram, and your acting, I thought it was really good. Like,
thank you.
You play a real asshole.
Yeah, there was good foreboding, because like, what happens to me in prison is foreboded all the way, so every line I say in the movie is about my ass, and then later on when I get sent to prison, it all comes true.
Yeah, a lot of dropping the soap. I feel like you've you have this uncanny ability to see the flaws in everything you do.
Yeah, potentially, although I reckon less so now. And looking back now, it's kind of what I've been saying, and I guess that's kind of why I wrote the book as well, because it was like, you can live a life less punishing, just to throw the name of the book in, but like, that doesn't need to have to be that punishing. Like, just enjoy it. Freaking hell, you make a movie with your mates, that's good. You've already won. You're already doing something great. Whether the movie turns out exactly like you wanted or not, that's just icing on the cake. The fact that someone was paying you to spend that much time with your friends, and to write a story and to shoot it and hang out and meet all the crew that was involved. It was just such a great crew. That whole experience in itself, because it took us 18 months to make. That 18 months was a freaking great 18 months. And if the movie had turned out to be as good as I wanted it to be, then that would have been a bonus. But that's the whole problem we have. We never do it. And like, I do a radio show, and I'm really conscious of that idea of finitude, like the idea that everything you do, you were going to do for the last time at some point. And then those things are suddenly in the past, and then you fail to enjoy them. So like you talk about that movie, that 18 months. At the time, you're working so hard, you're racked with guilt, and you don't ever go, this is freaking awesome, and you got to do that, right?
100%. How many people get to make like a full-length motion picture movie?
I know.
That gets played on the big screen.
Yeah.
And 20 years on almost, it's available on Amazon Prime. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and it's sad that you have this distorted view of it.
It really pisses off a lot of my friends, because they're like, let's watch it, go, no, shit. Or like, we finished the show, and like, we've made a TV show, and it's going to air, and I say, you coming to the thing now? Nah, I'm done with that. I've moved on to the next thing. But it's a failing that I think I've worked out, because it's because like for everyone, I think it's true for everyone, right? Like, I mean, things are always going to get worse. That's just the nature of the universe. Mm-hmm. So it's so stupid to not enjoy the good times, because you're gonna,
that's the thing about happiness. Like, it has to be here and now. It can't be something you're chasing, because you're never going to find it. But is that what happened with the book? Because this book was supposed to come out like a year ago or 18 months ago, and then you told the publishers you needed more time. Was that the same sort of thing, like a perfectionism complex?
Oh, maybe. Because I was on that show Traitors when I would first finish writing it, which was about a year ago. And so I was locked in my room, because it was like one of those shows where people get eliminated or whatever. It's good fun, actually. So I was writing it then, but then I was reading it in my room, and I was like, this is shit. So I rewrote it, because I was trying to do what it was is that thing we were talking about before. It was all irony, and it was all it wasn't sincere. So I talked to the publishers, and I said, and they were like, yeah, you've got to find your voice. I think they said voice, or yeah, they said voice. You've got to find your voice. And I was like, that's true, because you can't just, it becomes like a silly kind of parody kind of thing unless you, like, what's the point of writing a book like this about making, enjoying the life you've got, if you don't actually write about that, if you're not just blasting on about being a dick. If being a dick all the way through it, it's kind of pointless. So.
Yeah. Are you quite good now at like showing a bit of vulnerability?
Yeah.
And being authentic?
I think so, yeah, a lot better. And God, life's so much better if you do that. And you know that in broadcasting, like, so you broadcast for a very long time, and lots of great jokes, but the bits that people remember is the bit where you drop the facade and you're actually really say something, and you're really meaningful. You're human for a second, and they go, oh yeah. And you can't be that all the time, or else it's a different type of show, but
you still need the lols.
You still need the lols. But people, of course they do, because humans we all kind of share a really similar experience, I think. That we're not as different as we think we are. We're all kind of, no matter what everyone's doing in life, we're kind of sharing the same thing. And there's actually a bit that I was reading about a lot, which I thought was really interesting, is the idea that, you know, we're evolved to be dissatisfied, because the guy that was satisfied sitting on the savannah, and this professor I interviewed for the book, so I interviewed a whole lot of people from around the world that I thought were great thinkers. This guy called William B. Irvine, and he said, you know, the guy that sat on the savannah and went, sweet as, you know, was immediately eaten by a lion. And the guy that sat there and goes, well, the view's good, but maybe I should climb a tree, or maybe I should build some walls, or this place isn't that good, and started doing something else, that was the person that survived. So we are evolved from these people that were never satisfied, because satisfaction was death. And so I think we just got to realize that no matter how good things get, and arguably sometimes how bad things are, we're all equal. We've got equal levels of dissatisfaction. So that thing that you're chasing, you get there, and you're immediately just as dissatisfied as you were before, because that's not, you know, that's just, you're not going to solve your dissatisfaction.
Yeah, you definitely find that with material possessions, eh? Like I learned that the hard way. Like I filled my last house. Oh, you know that we had many parties at the house.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And you have a spa pool, and you have a heated pool, and then you realise that none of the stuff's bringing me more than like a temporary like dopamine fix, and that's it.
Yeah, and you had that corridor with all the doors, and it was like, there were so many doors down that corridor, and you were like,
which door is Matt in tonight with which random stranger?
It was like a Scooby-Doo situation with opening doors and running around. But what's that? I wrote a bit about that. It's that concept of hedonic adaptation, where you whatever you got, you adapt immediately to it. It's like whatever luxury you have is not a luxury for long. Then it's just the base level, and then you can't live without it, but you get no joy from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so true. Is that why I read you've become like a cold shower guy? Is this in the book?
Yeah.
You do 3-minute cold showers. How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for ages now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that basic thing, you know, that our pleasure and pain centers are co-located, and in our brains. So if you do something really, we're beings that are evolved for scarcity in a time of abundance. So we're just constantly hitting the joyful part, you know, the luxury part of our brains. The pleasure goes bam, 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 bam. And the way things are, it's homeostasis. So our brain's always trying to bring us back to normal, and it goes back to that dissatisfaction thing, because we can't be satisfied or else we'll get killed by a lion. So whenever you do something really, really pleasurable, there's an equal and opposite reaction in that part of the brain, the ventral pallidum, and so a cold shower, that's just starting the day with some pain, and so then your brain gives you some pleasure. It's as simple as that. It's like a seesaw. So if you're just pleasure all the time, then the brain's just constantly going pain to bring you back to the middle. Yeah. So that's why pleasure ends in pain. So and that's one of the lessons that I learned that was so good. And so cold showers, cold plunges, and you sound like a wound going on about it, because everyone does.
You do. You sound like a poor man's Art Green.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so freaking true.
Yeah, it's great. I couldn't agree more.
But a run is the same, or exercise, or yoga, or anything is the same, or just doing something hard. Like you feel better after. Like if you're a builder, then you do a hard day's work, and you feel a lot better when you come home after a hard day's work. And that's why work from home people that do nothing all day. Not all of them, but a lot of them. They spiral into depression because everything's comfortable for them. Even they don't even have the commute to deal with. So you have to do hard things to offset the inevitable amount of pleasurable things we do right now. Yeah,
because there's no sort of discomfort anymore, is there?
No.
In life. Life has become so comfortable.
Yeah.
And the cold shower thing, I bloody love that.
Yeah.
Because you're forcing yourself to do something that you, with every fibre of your being, you don't want to do.
And that's a victory as well in the morning as well. Like if I'm in the shower and I go, it's like you've had a win, because you've doused yourself in cold water. And sometimes I just forget. And I'm heading off to work, and I start work really early on the breakfast show, and it's like I'll be leaving the door. I'm like, I fucking had a hot shower, and it's like that was stupid, because now I feel weird. But I mean, you could the logical conclusion that you could come to is that you should then punch yourself in the face so you get something painful. But that's counterproductive. But it would work. But you can only punch yourself in the face so many times.
Yeah. You brought up the radio thing. We haven't even got into your radio career yet. So how did that start? So you had all the TV and the Deja Voodoo stuff. Then you started on BFM, which is the student radio station in Auckland.
Yeah. So I started. Actually, I was at Edgefest. This is a coincidence, actually. I was at Edgefest, and that before the fight with Alien Ant Farm, and I got a ring up, and a phone call. It's so long since phone calls are so ancient now. I don't know what to call them. I got a phone call when it was like
on the landline at the venue,
Mr. Heath, and someone said, "Do you want to do the drive show on BFM?" And I was like, "Yeah," on a Thursday. And I was like, "I've never done any radio before, but yep, that'd be cool." And so me and Chris started doing that, and you'll love this. At one point they said, can you shorten your breaks a bit? I mean, I think if you keep them to 15-minute breaks, that would be good between songs.
How long were your breaks?
Freaking long. Because I didn't know that people didn't want to hear you talk. And now, like, on commercial radio, we got a clock on the wall, over 3 minutes 30, and, it's a problem.
Sirens start going off.
Yeah, you get marched from the building. Yeah, so they offered me that, and then we started doing that, and then after a while, and that was fun, and then they just offered me the breakfast show, and then I did that for like 5 months, and then Harvey
on BFM.
Yeah, and then the breakfast show
with just yourself.
Just me on the breakfast show, and then.
Jeez, what a great training ground! What a great opportunity.
Yeah. Chris said something horrific on the air like a week out before that happened. Anyway, doesn't matter.
No, what was it? Can you remember? Or
kind of. Probably won't say it. That's for him. But anyway, I ended up doing the breakfast show by myself. He got the pip, but I don't know if it doesn't matter. But anyway, and I wasn't on for very long. I was on for 5 months, and then I got a ring from Reg.
Mike Regal,
great New Zealander, and he rang up and said, "You want to do the drive show?" Because what had happened is Ian Stables.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so Ian Stables, who I worked at the Edge. We were friends for a number of years, and then he was going to do the drive show, and then I think he had a fight with someone at the Jetstar chicken counter.
Yeah, so he was flying up to do the drive show on Radio Hodaki, and he got into a fist fight at the airport with, the guy.
Someone at the counter.
Yeah, and it was on CCTV footage, and there was. So I don't know if this is true. There was some talk of some racial content in it. I don't know. I would hate to speculate.
There was no audio to go with the pictures.
Yeah, but there were accusations, and it takes quite a lot to get a guy out from behind the ticketing counter. I mean, have you ever seen anyone climb over and come at you? I mean, what do you have to do?
No, I've seen a lot of Karens at the airport too, but I've never seen someone leave their post.
So someone left their post and beat the shit out of him on the forecourt at the airport of a Jetstar terminal. And
oh my God, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, and so he got his contract terminated before he even did his first show. And so they were like, we need a drive show host. And then they were just flicking through the channels and they heard me on BFM, which is amazing because how far I was from commercial radio. And they said, you want to do that? And I said, no, because I was terrified. I was like, I couldn't do commercial radio. Like, if you have, because I was a TV producer at the time, like working for Great Southern Television and doing this sort of radio show. But commercial radio seems very complicated from the outside. And it is pretty complicated. And so I was like, and then they showed me how much you get paid, and I was like, oh, okay, well maybe then I'll come in, and then did the first show. And I remember walking to the first show, a drive show, the Matt Heath drive show on Radio Hodaki, and I was like, never been more terrified in my entire life, never, like imposter syndrome, like because it was legitimate imposter syndrome. I couldn't do the job I'd signed up to do, like I had never done it, commercial radio.
So you were sort of on the air, like doing what your best act of what you thought a commercial radio announcer should be?
No, this is before I even got there. So
Okay.
I'm walking down there, and I've sort of been quite clear that I'm not qualified for the job, but they've thought I am. And then I was walking to work, and I walked past a bottle store, and I went, okay, I'm just going to have to get drunk to do this. And so I went in and I bought a little hippie. And I was just about to drink it, and I just had this moment. I go, if I drink this now, then I'll have to be drunk for every single one of these shows that I ever do. And if this becomes a career, I'll become an alcoholic. So I put the lid on it and threw it in the rubbish. And I went, no, I'm gonna face this, and went in and did the first show. And I was lucky, out of pure luck, teamed up with this guy called Tim Batt, who is a friend to this day, and he was just this young dude that was just kick-ass, and so we became really good friends, and we did the first show, and I was like, wow, that was pretty good. And then we got this call immediately, and the guy goes, I'm going to kill you. You've ruined Radio Hodaki. I'm going to freaking kill you. I'm waiting in the car park with freaking, I'm going to freaking kill you. And I was like, oh, okay, it didn't go quite as well as I thought. But
wow, why? Why was someone so outraged?
There's a certain type of Radio Hodaki listener to this day that runs a certain amount of rage. It might have been the methamphetamine thing, who knows? But actually, we got to know that guy. We called him Death Threat Dave, and so I thought we'll face this head on. So we got his number because it come up, and then we rang him the next show and said, hey, you still want to kill me? And he goes, ah! And then about 4 days in, he was like, oh, I'm actually coming around to the show. Actually, I quite like it now.
How long was it before you felt comfortable?
Freaking years.
Really?
Like, comfortable. Yeah.
So I think that was about the time where we met, where you were doing afternoons on Radio Hauraki.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, comfortable. I guess, yeah. I mean, you do thousands of shows. I mean, I'm pretty freaking comfortable now doing it. But it took me a while to feel awesome doing it. And you know what it's like. You have good and bad shows to this day. Like today, we had a freaking great show on the Matt and Jerry Breakfast Show. That was wicked. And then you might have a crappy one tomorrow. But they're actually all really good now. Like,
yeah, your low benchmark becomes like a 7 out of 10.
But I reckon maybe there's no coincidence that you're into running, because once you finish a breakfast show, you have this weird energy because you have put so much into it, and you're sort of up and you're saying all these things, and there's all this energy. It's live and it's coming back, and then you stop and you go out to the office, and people are arriving at work, and you're hyped up, and you can get that kind of nervous energy after that, that angstiness. So you kind of have to do something straight after that, or else it's a problem, because you're not going to get enough compliments to make you feel like it was awesome at the start, because no one was listening to it. Like most of the people coming in to sell things and to do their jobs, and that you think that they'll be totally listening to your show. Yeah. And you're like, did you hear the bit with it?
Yeah. The best you get is great show this one without any specifics.
Yeah, great show, boys. Great energy.
Yeah. So how did the partnership with you and Jeremy? Yeah, you've had 2 really successful professional partnerships. You and Chris Stapp.
Yeah.
And now you and Jeremy Wells, both really long-term relationships.
Yeah. So me and Jeremy were friends beforehand.
Just through media circles.
And through different things, and and then we just were at a party once, and we said, it would be freaking cool if we did a breakfast show together. It'd be awesome. So we went to I was doing the drive show, and I just said, hey, we would love to do a breakfast show together. And they were like, Jeremy was a big name, and they were like, turns out they already had someone hired to do the breakfast show. We didn't know this. And then they went, okay, yeah, we'll sign you guys up to be the breakfast show. There was, it was more complex than that, but it was quite a good proposition to them, because I think, it was good to get Jerry on there, and it's been really good. I mean, we've been working together for years and never had an argument,
Yeah, I was going to ask you that about creative friction, because you talked before about Chris and you breaking his ribs and you guys having arguments, but you were a lot younger then. You're in your 20s. You and Jeremy are both in your late 40s, I guess. 40s, 50s, early 50s.
Late 60s.
Yeah. So there's never been any sort of like creative friction or...
No, and it was actually quite an eye-opener for me to work with someone, because I remember on the first day, because he'd had interesting creative relationships as well. And
he worked with Havoc for a number of years.
Havoc for a long time. Right. So Havoc was his Chris, and there was, that was great, and they did amazing stuff, but there was also, I guess you'd say tardiness issues and from Havo and stuff, it was interesting. And he'd been working on Eating Me Lunch and all that kind of stuff, and we just had a chat before we started, and we both said to each other, hey, should we just accept that each other's ideas are good and just do them? Because that's the thing, spend so much time trying to explain someone's idea to them, your idea to someone, and they don't quite get it, or they're explaining their idea to you, and you think it's shit.
Like you're almost pitching it to each other.
Yeah, and you think it's shit, but that's because you don't fully understand it, and they're not explaining it well, and then you do it, and it's great. And so we just decided to, whatever idea either of us pitch to each other, we'd just go, we'll do it, and we'll see what happens. And that's what we've always done. So there's never a situation where we go, nah, I don't think it's a good idea, which has got us into a certain amount of trouble over the years, I guess you got to say. Like
trouble with management, or
a bit of trouble with management. I mean, we had this idea we had called No Sleep Till Breakfast, where we'd do a breakfast show and then we'd drink and party all the way to the other next breakfast show, so people would see what state would appear on air, and that caused some problems.
With who?
You know what it's like in radio. It doesn't really affect us, but there was just someone was having to deal with problems. And there's some legal problems that we've written things that we're not allowed to talk about. You know, got non-disclosures on a few things, and I guess I listened to your discussion with your pod with Simon Bridges. There was one with him where I asked him whether he hated the baby when Jacinda had a baby. And
what did he say? That's hilarious.
He said, "Yeah, pinko little bloody," and he goes, "Typical, it's a girl. Like it's not like Jacinda could have a boy. That wouldn't be right." And he was joking. He was being silly because you know what he's like. He's really,
in your environment, he was playing to your level.
Yeah. And then somehow on News Hub decided we'd been transphobic. I still can't work out how they made the. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't that. We took aim at the rainbow community, and I still can't understand how they crossed that river. But there's things like that. But also in commercial radio, like it has to be a certain amount of those anyway.
Yeah, one thing I love about
you've had the odd controversy.
Yeah, well, just listening to you now, I think in reflection, one thing I did was to just take it far too seriously.
Yeah,
we'd take every break seriously, and then when you. Because I was a lifer. Like, I got into radio when I was 17.
Yeah.
I was in, at the edge for 20 years. And you end up in this bubble where you take it really seriously. And you think when the ratings come out, everyone cares about it. When you take a step back, you realise no one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
No one, the only ratings I don't even know when ratings day is. Unless, like, JJ or you tell me. And then you read what's in the New Zealand Herald.
Well, it's funny you should mention JJ because she gave us some advice really early on. And she just said, it doesn't really matter what you're saying as long as it seems like everyone's having a good time. You've won half the battle. Like, because if it sounds like people are having a bad time, then whatever the content is not going to be great. But if at the very least it feels like it's a positive thing and people are having a good time, then you've kind of you've won 50% of it. That I didn't learn that lesson for a very, very long time. So that you say the thing taking a break too seriously, that can kind of sometimes take away from the very point of it, which is just a few people enjoying themselves and having a good time. Is kind of, like conversations at pubs aren't necessarily the greatest thing in the world, but like if there's a general hum of happiness in the air, then that's half the battle of a good time.
Yeah, and a disastrous voice break, like, come on.
Yeah, come on.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, then it's 28 voice breaks ago, then it's a week ago, then it's a month ago, then it's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And no one gives a shit as much as you do. That's another thing you was asking for about lessons I've learned in life, is no one gives as much of a shit about it as you do. Like your humiliations and, whatever it's happened, how people are thinking about it, that people don't. And then, like if you're in infinitude, the world doesn't really give that much of a shit, and then the universe definitely doesn't give that much of a shit. So,
I fully agree. Like everyone's kind of self-conscious to a degree, and everyone's wondering what other people think about them. But everyone else is just thinking the same as you. They're thinking about themselves.
Yeah,
and that's it. And in terms of being remembered, no one's going to be remembered. Like 200 years from now, no one's going to know who Ed Sheeran is. Probably.
Yeah, well, I saw this thing recently about how little Jimi Hendrix is getting played now. Like they were tracking artists that have continued on. Queen are bigger than they've ever been. There's various artists that just keep going and going. Nirvana are huge now. And then for some reason Jimi Hendrix is going and sliding into the past and disappearing like these huge stars. And like look at Elvis. And there'll be a point where the Beatles aren't anything. There'll be a point when Taylor Swift isn't anything. And if Taylor Swift is not remembered, then good luck, frickin' me.
Well, you think of all the people on statues around the world. Like, who are they?
Who's that guy on the statue? Yeah, unless it was
No, but one thing I really love when I hear you guys, it's like almost the defiance. Like you must be like your boss's nightmare, because it's almost like you have like a meeting with. Do you have consultants? Who do you?
Yeah, we've had consultants. Yep.
Yeah, like usually someone from LA or someone from Australia, because someone from overseas knows more about radio than what people here do. and they tell you what you should be doing, and the usual thing is keep your brake lengths shorter. But you guys,
it always comes around to keep your brake lengths shorter. They go blah 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 blah, and just tighten up those brakes a little bit. And then they always say that thing goes, not that if it's great content, then go for as long as you want, but tighten up those brakes a bit. And then they put a clock in, and you realise that all they care about is that you talk for 3 minutes.
That's it. Yeah, I was always about giving them value for money. It's like, I'm being paid really well, so I want to be, rather than less is more, it's like, no, more is more.
Yeah, but that's why podcasts are so good and kind of have proved a point in a way that
people do have the appetite for long form.
Yeah, yeah. Although, but I also do actually now over time realise what they were kind of saying, and then because someone will play you back a break that you thought was freaking amazing. And you're like, I should have jumped out there. We were just saying the same joke over and over and over again, and so maybe it was time to get out.
It's good though. It's a very good show you guys do. How long have you been going now?
10 years
on Whole Acre Breakfast.
Yeah.
Wow.
9 years.
That's amazing. And you still love it? You enjoy it?
I freaking love it. I actually love it more now than ever, because a lot of these things that you're talking about by that idea of not taking it too seriously and just letting go. Letting go of the previous break and going, because I think you asked me for one of the lessons that I've learned most over the years, and it's that at any second you can just flip things. Like any conversation that's not going well, you can just suddenly make better, because the past is the past, is a realm you don't live in. You can just make it better. So like if you can chew on something, like you can even be halfway through an interview and it's not going well, and you start chewing on it, or you can go, oh no, I'll just make the interview good from now. And then that's in the past, and then if it ends good, then it's good. So that's what I've learned. So if I'm even in the middle of a break, I'm like, oh, this isn't going well. Oh, I'll just make it good. Like rather than going, oh, this isn't going well, I'll just peter out.
Yeah, I think having that awareness is a good thing. And then you can
do that in a relationship with your partner. Like when you got those opportunities in a relationship. Everyone knows these moments where you've got a pathway. You're talking to them, and you know that you can niggle them. And they might be doing something wrong, but you have a choice whether you can, which way you go on it, and you can always make it good, or bad, or at least better. But for a long time in your life, for some reason you always choose I'm going to burn the whole house down. I'm going to screw this, But if you just go, hang on, just seems to be going this way. You know what? I'm just going to change my attitude here, and I'm going to be good now. I'm going to make it better. I'll see if I can make this a good experience.
That's so true. It's so true. Do you feel like that you've reached this point because you've done the work, or do you think this is just like a maturity thing and you would have reached
I
this
wonder
point?
about that, because a lot of the things I think about, can you tell a 22-year-old to calm down?
22-year-old Matt wouldn't have listened.
No, you can't. They'd be like, piss off. They'd hate, because they want to burn the world down.
Yeah.
And they think you know everything at that point. But that's what. But I think also, because they always say that youth is wasted on the young, but I also think it's wasted on the middle-aged and the old. Like, all of us have the ability to ruin the whatever amount of time we've got, because who knows, you could die tomorrow, whatever. But we all have that ability, don't we, to just waste it. And so and you just look back at what you were doing in your 20s and you go, but what you did in your 20s has got you to where you are. So there's a possibility you have to go through those phases.
Yeah.
Of that insane ambition that you've got that you have, and the and destructive thing, and all that stuff. But if you change a single thing back then you wouldn't be where you are now.
Yeah, the butterfly effect thing.
Yeah.
I probably still have this issue with fully enjoying or appreciate what I've got now. And you every now and then you catch yourself and you realise things could be a whole lot worse.
Oh shit, yeah. I mean, I always think about these two people, and like, it's such a cliche, but I was in India not so long ago, and I saw these two, like, they looked like 11-year-old kids, and they were in a dump, and they had no shoes, and they were actually going through the dump on the side of the road, in Bangalore, and I made eye contact with them as we whipped past in our car. And for some reason, you have those moments that it's kind of like a cinematic moment. You're like, oh my God. And it just got me thinking, imagine those people looking at us and knowing that we are freaking dissatisfied with our life. They'll be like, you don't think you got enough? Like, or, you know what I mean? Like, and then not only they would do anything to have what you have, but then imagine if they found out that you were dissatisfied with what you got and you think you deserve more. You'd be like, that fuckwit that drove past in the car at pace and eyeballed me, he's unhappy.
Yeah, it seems like outrageous entitlement.
What a piece of shit. Yeah. Is he ever going to be fucking happy if he's not happy there, you know?
Have you had any counselling or therapy over the years?
No, never.
You've just worked it out yourself with podcasts and books.
I had, relationship therapy, but I'm suspicious that maybe relationship theory might be just like helping you out of the relationship. I mean, it's just like a step on the way out. It's like softening the, softening the departure. Mm-hmm. I've got a theory on that. Yeah. I'd like to see the stats on how
many relationships get turned around because.
No, I haven't. And see, that was my plan. Really, was to see if I could. I just had this idea when I was, up late one night. I was like, I wonder if I can read my way out of this, and listen to podcasts and listen to audiobooks and then listen to scientific papers and stuff. And so I got a PDF reader that was in my ears all the time and started running a lot and listening to the stuff. And I feel like that's actually not a bad path, because you've got to do something if you're not feeling great. It's stupid not to do something. And I think it was Einstein that said the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Which is exactly what we all do.
Yeah.
And so I think there's something to that. But also, like, what I'd say, especially with my book, is it's like, it's not for people with horrific, I mean, they're welcome to read it, but it's not for, there's this really serious clinical depression, and there's things that are quite different from this. But I'm sort of looking at the person that has all the capability to be enjoying the life they're having and is failing to do so, is really what the idea is, because it feels almost disrespectful to have it okay. And there's so many levels of okay, but has everything in their grasp to actually enjoy their life. And there's so many people. I mean, God, everyone sees the person in a wheelchair with one like trying to make it down the street to the dairy, and when that person goes past you, you can either go, I don't know. If you don't see that and reflect back on your life and go, I probably owe that person to probably enjoy what I've got. Even to that very, very, very low level,
Yeah, 100%. Oh, the book really resonated with me, because I have that sometimes. It's like, why am I unhappy? I've got nothing to be fucking unhappy about. And it's a weird feeling, because you do have a sense of guilt as well. Like, you should be happy.
Yeah.
You're like, why am I not happy?
Yeah, that's what I had in turning into it. But there's this thing that Yuval Noah Harari wrote in his book, which I thought was interesting. It's not his idea, but he was talking about there's 3 slots of unhappiness, basically concern we have, fear and anxiety that we have. There's 3 slots. And if you're in the trench, and you've seen that movie, They Shall Not Grow Old, Peter Jackson, and they're smiling and doing that stuff, because their slots are filled with, being shot, trench foot, and grenades and such, and so that takes them to their base level of happiness. So they return to that, and they're fearful, all that kind of stuff. But we all have those slots, so we fill, no matter how good things get, we fill those slots with whatever stupid things, like that arsehole at work's giving me shit, my career's not quite right. And then I once heard the story from Paul Stanley from Kiss, that guy? He rang up crying to the Bentley because he'd been dropped out of the top 5 people who get the latest Bentley given to him. So he'd filled one of his slots. Some people in the trenches, you're filling that slot, or if you're starving, then you fill that slot with having to feed your family, or feed yourself or survive.
It's almost like you manufacture problems for yourself.
Yeah. So if you're Paul Stanley, you fill that slot because he's got no other thing to worry about. You fill that slot with, you've been taken out of the top 5 guys to receive the latest car.
Yeah.
But you can easily check. You just have to
change your mindset.
Yeah, you just have to change your mindset and look at what you have. Learn. Getting more stuff doesn't make you happy. But learning to want what you've got is the trick, right?
Yeah. Be happy with what you've got and where you are.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to wrap up. One more thing which I feel like is worth a mention. Up the Waz. That's a big movement that's been going the last couple of years, and there's a new one, the Pinot Waz. And you are the creator of that.
Well, it's so genius, isn't it? So I was just sitting in a pub drinking a Pinot Noir, watching the Warriors, and I sent to a group chat, which happened to be a radio group chat, because we all, when we were watching the Warriors, we all text each other and stuff, and I was like, the Pinot Noirs. And then someone put it up online, and it sort of blew up.
Oh, it's blown up in a big way.
Yeah, it's gone everywhere. It's gone quite. It's blown up, and I reckon it's the same reason why Kung Fu Panda is popular. It's because it's the opposites, isn't it? It's like everyone's trying to say what a grassroots Warriors fan they are, and everyone's trying to say that they've been there for the start and they're not a bandwagon, like and then you're like. It's like, I enjoy the Warriors matched with a delicious Pinot Noir. It's like so silly, but it's certainly got me a lot of Pinot Noir sent my way.
Oh my god, that's amazing! Yeah.
What an amazing boxes and boxes.
So,
in fact, I bought you a bottle today.
You did. It was a lovely bottle.
Some that was delivered to me just before I came up here.
Yeah, you and I do enjoy our Pinot Noirs. Yeah, we've had a lot of them over the years.
Yeah.
So, out of all the work you've done, what are you the most proud of? Do you ever think of recency bias?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm actually quite proud of this book at the moment. I'm quite proud of this book at the moment, and I'm also quite proud of. I reckon I'm a really good dad, and that's. I mean, I've really worked on that, and that's. I've been lucky in that I've done breakfast radio, so I've been home for my boys when they come home from school. So right now it's those two things, and I think I'm quite proud of how much I'm, enjoying life and trying to be a bit more of less of a frickin' Eeyore about everything. You know what I mean? Like, I think I've turned some corners.
It's funny, you have to do the work though, eh?
Yeah, you do.
Like, no one can do it for you.
And it never stops. And also, you don't, all the things that people say, it's just an ideal. Like, even like the most amazing, like, I know, like, take Seneca, for example, one of the, great Stoic philosopher and statesman. There's so many stories of him being a complete freaking arsehole, and just being, doing terrible, terrible things. So there's no one, even the most supposedly enlightened people, screw up all the time. So even if you go, oh my god, I'm like so amazing now, I don't let things get to me, you'll then just spend a whole day being angry at someone and being a fucking dick, and then that's fucking fine, because at least you've got something. That have you ever read that book When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanihi?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, it's a great book. It's about a guy who he's a neuroscientist that develops a brain tumor and dies throughout the book, actually. So he wrote the book, and then it was released after he was dead. Oh. So it's
a comedy.
Yeah, it's comedy. Yeah, but it's kind of grim. But then he's talking in it, about he basically says you don't get there, but the best thing in life is to at least have something to strive towards.
Yeah.
And he wanted to strive towards dying. That's a fucking grim example I've come up with here, but he wanted to he wanted to strive towards being perfect for his wife and his kid on the way out, and made it easy for them, and he wanted to strive to being really good, but you can't do that. But at least he knew what he wanted to be,
Yeah, I think that's a good message. I think that's the best thing you can do. Just make your immediate circle sort of proud, and hopefully when you're gone, they miss you, like your kids or
if you can make people around you's life a little bit better, in your life, and then it's not freaking bad. But too often the time we make people's lives around us fucking terrible by being absolute penises. Yeah,
well you do. You save your worst behaviour for the people you love the most.
Yeah, shit, yeah.
I catch myself doing. My girlfriend moved in like 4 months ago. Yeah. I even find myself doing it. Like, she'll leave just little things, like she'll have a half-drunk cup of tea and she'll leave it on the sofa, or there'll be an empty toilet roll. And
oh my god, you're doing the same thing to me. I lived by myself for a long time after my big breakup, and then everything's in the exact freaking right space, and then you're like, there's another toothbrush in the bathroom, and it's sticking up in a weird kind of way. Now there's like a Q-tip that's, like you just...
Are you living with your partner now?
No.
Okay.
But
just mysterious.
Sometimes. Yeah, but we've talked about it a lot because I've become a weirdo where it's like everything's really tidy, and then suddenly her things are all in a drawer. Like she's just come around and she's laid everything out and she's put her stuff where she'd put herself, which is pretty normal, and then she goes upstairs and she goes back down and everything's been put away like a weirdo, and she's like, the fuck are you doing? And I was like, I've just lived.
Because you do get set in your ways.
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous thing.
And I think becoming tidy is because you can always be more tidy. Like, I talked to someone that worked on a cruise ship for a billionaire, and she was telling me that they have to, everything, like the level of tidiness is, because they're billionaires, they're not on their boat every now and then, you're around like every brick not there's a lot of bricks on boats, but everything would be made sure that it was all the same colour and the whole thing, and there's levels of tidiness. So I think it's a thing, that perfectionism of tidiness. And when you're a little bit older and you've broken up with someone, that you can go into the minutiae of tidiness.
But also, I quite like being tidy because it controls the chaos around your life a little bit. I don't know.
And also, I freaking love cleaning. Because it's easier than what I normally have to do is write something or do something. So it's like, they're like cleaning.
Yeah.
Fucking great. Like if everything fucking ends, I could just, it sounds fucking lame, but I
become a cleaner.
I enjoy,
become a cleaner for Airbnb or something.
I enjoy cleaning.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do next? Is there anything that you haven't done that you want to do? Like we talked about this at the beginning, TV series, movie, animated series, which we didn't get into. Music. You've done now
on the ACC. I'm just a comments man when I'm commentating sport. I'd like to be allowed to do the ball by ball at some point, like not Jeremy Wells or Jason Hoydoff or Mike Lane off, and actually be allowed to call the ball by ball and not just be the comments guy. That would be good. I tried to do it recently. I just sort of jumped on, and then there was panic in the booth.
Not yet, Matt. Not yet.
ACC's only been going. It's only been 10 years, mate. You're not ready.
Anything else? It has been a hell of a career, and I feel like you've still got so much to do.
Yeah, shit. What do I want to do? That's a very good question. Because part of maybe writing a book was like to write a book. When I was off to write a book, I mean that was kind of like, as much as I had something to say and wanted to do it, I guess. I also, to write a book's kind of cool. You said, you wrote a book. You wrote your first book years and years ago, but when you wrote a book, you go, it's kind of one of those things you say. It's like, I've written a book.
Oh, it is, especially when most of your stuff's on radio. So it's you do a break, whether it's good or bad, it's out there, and a book's something a bit more permanent, and it's something I suppose someone like your dad can sort of understand a bit more.
I tell you what, I'm really enjoying now, and I want to lean into more. I just did this podcast today, which I spent about 3 weeks researching for. That I recorded the first episode for today, and it was like deeply researched podcasts. Not just talking shit, like, you do so much more research than I do for my podcast, but, like really getting to know something and then imparting that information over 3-part podcasts is something I'm fucking loving leaning into now. So you just know more about, like, this one particularly was about Peter Plumley Walker, that murder. So I probably know more about the Peter Plumley Walker murder than nearly anyone, not murder, it wasn't a murder, but Peter Plumley Walker situation.
What was it? Oh, Peter Plumley Walker. This was in the 1980s, eh?
Yeah, 1989.
Cricket umpire?
Yeah, cricket umpire.
Loved BDSM.
Yeah, and he ended up getting thrown over the Hooker Falls by Renee Chignall and Neville Walker. Yeah.
Right, after so BDSM, so he got a flogging, and they flogged him too much?
No. It's very complicated.
Right.
But
I was young at the time, so I vaguely remember the story. This sounds good.
Yeah. So it's
a serious podcast.
Well, no.
As serious as what you can.
Serious, just it's deeply researched. Right. Deeply researched. And that's pretty fun, just spending like 3 weeks really getting to know a topic. So you said there's something you're vaguely interested in, and then you just know everything about it that you can possibly find. That's pretty fun. So I might lean into that for a while.
How good? How can people find it? What do they search?
Oh, that's just the Matt and Jerry Daily Bespoke podcast. The next that'll be in there somewhere in the sea of, because we do a bunch of stupid ones every now and then. There's a good one, research one. So
no, they're all good. Mm-hmm. They're all good. But and this book's amazing. A life less punishing. 13 ways to love the life you've got. You must be proud of that. It's bloody great.
Yeah. Oh no, I am. And hey, thank you so much for talking to me. And it's kind of weird to talk to a friend like this. You know what I mean? Like over a mic.
It's bizarre.
But it's really good. It's probably the best conversation we've ever had.
Because we don't...
Because normally we're drinking and making shit jokes and being idiots, and then, laugh, like me. Like we and
I always enjoy it, though.
Definitely.
I always enjoy our catch-ups. I always go away and think, Matt's a good dude. I'm pleased I've got him as a friend. But I'm also, after doing the research for this... it's a good thing we met when we did. Like, if we met in our 20s, I think we would have both thought the other one was a dick.
but when you're 20s, you think everyone else is a dick, especially in media. You're like, that fucking asshole.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Cheers, bud.
Yeah, I love being your friend. Thanks for coming over.
Yeah. Me too. Thank you so much for let's have a wine.
Let's go. Up the wires. Up the Pinot wires.